Hey guys, welcome to this video on cell structure and function. In this video, we will explore the different components that make up a cell and how they work together to carry out cellular processes. By the end of this video, you will have a better understanding of the incredible complexity of cells and their role in the diversity of life on Earth. So let's get started. A cell is the basic unit of life and is the smallest structural and functional unit of all living organisms. Every organism, from the simplest single-celled bacteria to complex multicellular animals and plants, is made up of cells. Cells are important because they carry out all of the essential functions of life, such as obtaining energy from food, removing waste products, and responding to their environment. They are also responsible for the growth and development of organisms, the repair and maintenance of tissues, and the transmission of genetic information from one generation to the next. The discovery of cells dates back to the 17th century when the Dutch scientist Antony van Leeuwenhoek used a simple microscope to observe single-celled organisms. Later in 1665, the English scientist Robert Hooke used a compound microscope to observe the thin slices of cork, which he saw were made up of tiny box-like structures he called cells. This was the first time the term cell was used to describe the basic unit of living organisms. Over the years, what happened was that scientists continued to study cells and their structure and function, leading to important discoveries in biology and medicine. Today, our understanding of cells and their role in living organisms is the foundation of modern biology. So mainly there are two types of cells, prokaryotic cells and eukaryotic cells. Prokaryotic cells are simpler in structure and lack a nucleus and other membrane-bound organelles. The genetic material in prokaryotic cells is located in a single circular molecule of DNA called the nucleus. Bacteria and archaea are examples of prokaryotic cells. Eukaryotic cells, on the other hand, are more complex in structure and have a nucleus and other membrane-bound organelles that compartmentalize the cell and allow for specialized functions. The genetic material in eukaryotic cells is organized into multiple linear chromosomes within the nucleus. Eukaryotic cells are found in all multicellular organisms, including animals, plants, fungi, and protocysts. There are different types of eukaryotic cells, depending on the organisms they belong to. Animal cells are typically round and irregular in shape, and they lack a cell wall, but have a flexible cell membrane. Plant cells, on the other hand, are characterized by a rigid cell wall made up of cellulose, which provides structural support, and they have chloroplasts, which enable them to carry out photosynthesis. Additionally, plant cells have a large central vacuole that stores water, nutrients, and waste products. Other types of eukaryotic cells include fungal cells, which have a single cell wall made of chitin and may have a septum that divides them into compartments, and protocyst cells, which are a diverse group of single-cell organisms that can have a wide variety of structures and functions depending on the species. So here's an overview of the main components of eukaryotic cells and their functions. First off, we have the cell membrane. The cell membrane, as we all know, is a thin flexible barrier that surrounds the cell and separates its internal environment from the external environment. It regulates the passage of molecules in and out of the cell and helps to maintain cell shape. And then we have the cytoplasm. The cytoplasm is a gel-like substance that fills the cell and contains all the organelles. It is where many cellular processes take place. Then we have the nucleus. The nucleus is a membrane-bound organelle that contains the cell's genetic material in the form of DNA. It regulates gene expression and controls the cell's growth and reproduction. Then we have mitochondria. Now, mitochondria are organelles that generate energy for the cell through the process of cellular respiration. They are often called the powerhouses of the cell. Then we have ribosomes. Ribosomes are small organelles that are responsible for synthesizing proteins. They read the genetic code in mRNA and use it to assemble amino acids into proteins. Endoplasmic reticulum. Now, the endoplasmic reticulum is a network of membranes that extends throughout the cytoplasm. There are two types of endoplasmic reticulum. Rough endoplasmic reticulum, which is studded with ribosomes and involved in protein synthesis and secretion, and smooth endoplasmic reticulum, which is involved in lipid synthesis and detoxification. It lacks ribosomes, therefore the name smooth. Smooth ER lacks ribosome and rough ER contains ribosomes. All of these components work together to carry out cellular processes. For example, the cell membrane regulates the passage of molecules into and out of the cell, while the cytoplasm contains all the organelles needed for the cell's function. The nucleus controls gene expression, and the mitochondria generates energy for the cell to use. Ribosomes synthesizes proteins, which are then transported through the endoplasmic reticulum for further processing and secretion. In addition to these main components, cells may also contain other organelles, such as lysosomes, which are involved in the breaking down and recycling cellular waste. And then we have the peroxisomes, which are involved in detoxification and lipid metabolism. The cell membrane. The cell membrane, also known as the plasma membrane, is a thin, flexible barrier that surrounds the cell and separates its internal environment from the external environment. It is composed of a phospholipid bilayer, which consists of two layers of phospholipid molecules with hydrophobic tails facing inwards and hydrophilic heads facing outward. The cell membrane has several important functions. Firstly, it regulates the passage of molecules in and out of the cell. It is selectively permeable, meaning that it allows some molecules to pass through while preventing others from crossing the membrane. This ensures that the cell maintains the proper balance of ions and molecules needed for cellular process. Secondly, the cell membrane serves to maintain cell shape and structure. It provides a boundary between the inside and outside of the cell, which helps to keep the cytoplasm and organelles in place. Thirdly, we have the cell membrane plays a key role in cell signaling and communication. It contains receptors that can detect and respond to signals from other cells and the environment, and it can also transmit signals to the inside of the cell to activate or inhibit various cellular processes. Finally, the cell membrane helps to maintain cell homeostasis, which is the balance of conditions inside the cell that are necessary for its survival. The membrane actively regulates the concentrations of ions and molecules inside the cell, maintaining a stable environment despite changes in the external environment. In summary, the cell membrane is a crucial component of all cells, serving to regulate the passage of molecules, maintaining cell shape, facilitating cell signaling, and finally, maintaining homeostasis. Now the nucleus. The nucleus is a membrane-bound organelle found in eukaryotic cells that contains the cell's genetic material in the form of DNA. It is often described as the control center of the cell because it regulates gene expression and controls the cell's growth and reproduction. The structure of the nucleus consists of several components, including the nuclear envelope, the nucleoplasm, the nucleolus, and the chromatin. The nuclear envelope is a double membrane that surrounds the nucleus and separates its contents from the cytoplasm. It contains nuclear pores that allow molecules to pass in and out of the nucleus. The nucleoplasm is the gel-like substance that fills the nucleus. The nucleolus is a dense region within the nucleus where ribosomes are synthesized. Chromatin is the DNA and protein material that makes up the chromosomes. The primary function of the nucleus is to store and protect the cell's genetic material, which is organized into chromosomes. Now, the genetic material contains the instructions for making proteins, which are essential for carrying out cellular processes. DNA is the molecule that carries the genetic information, while RNA serves as a messenger that carries that information to the ribosome, where it is used to synthesize proteins. The nucleus plays a crucial role in controlling gene expression, which is the process by which the genetic information in DNA is used to synthesize proteins. This is done through a complex series of steps that involves the transcription of DNA into RNA, which will then be translated into proteins. The regulation of gene expression is critical for the proper functioning of cells and for the development and differentiation of different types of cells. In summary, the nucleus is a membrane-bound organelle that stores and protects the cell's genetic material. It plays a key role in controlling gene expression through the production of RNA and the regulation of protein synthesis, which is essential for the proper functioning of the mitochondria. The mitochondria are organelles found in eukaryotic cells that are responsible for generating energy for the cell. They are often referred to as the powerhouses of the cell because they generate the majority of the cell's ATP, which is the molecule that stores and transfers energy within the cells. The structure of mitochondria consists of an outer membrane and an inner membrane, with a space between them called the intermembrane space. The inner membrane is highly folded into structures called cristae, which increases the surface area available for energy production. The central part of the mitochondria is called the matrix, which contains enzymes and other molecules involved in energy metabolism. The primary function of mitochondria is to carry out cellular respiration, which is the process by which cells generate energy from nutrients in the presence of oxygen. This involves several complex biochemical pathways that takes place in the different compartments of the mitochondria. Now, the very first steps of cellular respiration is glycolysis, which occurs in the cytoplasm outside of the mitochondria. What happens is that glucose will be converted into pyruvate, which then enters the mitochondria through special transporters in the mitochondrial membrane. In the matrix, pyruvate is further oxidized through the Krebs cycle, also called the citric acid cycle, producing energy-rich molecules such as NADH and FADH2. These molecules then enter the electron transport chain, which is located in the inner mitochondrial membrane. The electron transport chain uses the energy from NADH and FADH2 to generate a proton gradient across the inner membrane, which is then used to generate ATP through a process called oxidative phosphorylation. Overall, mitochondria plays a crucial role in energy metabolism by generating ATP through cellular respiration. There are found in most eukaryotic cells, including muscle cells, which require a lot of energy to function, and brain cells, which require a constant energy supply to maintain their function. Dysfunction of mitochondria can lead to a wide range of diseases, including metabolic disorders and neurodegenerative diseases. Finally, we have the endoplasmic reticulum. The endoplasmic reticulum and ribosomes are two interconnected organelles that are involved in protein synthesis and secretion in eukaryotic cells. The endoplasmic reticulum is a network of membranous tubule and sacs that extends throughout the cytoplasm. As I mentioned earlier, there are two types of ER, rough ER and smooth ER. A rough ER is studied with ribosomes, which gives it a rough appearance and is involved in protein synthesis and secretion, whereas smooth ER lacks ribosomes and is involved in lipid synthesis and detoxification. Ribosomes are small organelles that are responsible for synthesizing proteins. They read the genetic code in mRNA and use it to assemble amino acids into proteins. Ribosomes can be found in the cytoplasm or attached to the surface of the rough endoplasmic reticulum. The process of protein synthesis begins in the nucleus, where DNA is transcribed into mRNA. The mRNA then exits the nucleus through nuclear pores and travels to the ribosomes either in the cytoplasm or on the surface of the rough endoplasmic reticulum. The ribosomes read the genetic code in the mRNA and use it to assemble amino acids into a polypeptide chain, which is then folded into a protein. Proteins that are destined for secretion or insertion into the cell membrane are synthesized by ribosomes attached to the rough endoplasmic reticulum. As the protein is synthesized, it is translocated across the membrane of the endoplasmic reticulum and into its lumen, where it undergoes folding and modification. The protein is then transported to the Golgi apparatus, where it undergoes further processing and sorting before being packaged into vesicles for secretion or incorporation into the cell membrane. In summary, the endoplasmic reticulum and ribosomes are two interconnected organelles that work together to carry out protein synthesis and secretion in eukaryotic cells. The ribosomes synthesize proteins based on the genetic code in mRNA, while the rough endoplasmic reticulum is involved in the processing and sorting of proteins destined for secretion or incorporation into the cell membrane. The smooth endoplasmic reticulum is involved in lipid synthesis and detoxification.